All right, Arise business analyst Chika Mbono is with us here in Lagos. Chika, you're very welcome. Good morning to you. We also have Mr. Timi Bomodi, who's a spokesperson and also the Deputy Comptroller of the Customs Service. Good morning to you, sir. So, sir, you saw that clip. We've discussed this extensively. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much. And of course, you're in our Abuja studios. I would like for you to, of course, to respond to that and tell us how, I guess, Customs is addressing the issue with the ports.
Okay, good morning once again. I would like to say that with due respect to Mr. Chika Mbono, he got a lot of things wrong. I don't know where he got that information as to the number of, checks that he said exist in the ports currently, but that is absolutely not true. So I would want to take you through the procedure for clearance of goods in the ports as, dictated by the NICE's 2 platform. He talked about automation of processes, and the Nigerian Customs Service has already done that. We have not only automated, we have harmonized and simplified our clearance processes and made it more user-friendly. So an importer or his agent can sit conveniently in his office or in his bedroom and make declarations for the purposes of paying duty. He can also make payments from his office. He doesn't have to go to the ports. And after he makes payments, the system, which is an automated system, will trigger selectivity. It is only when the system triggers selectivity that now the customs now is called upon to play a role. But even then, there are other roles that are necessary for other parties in the clearance scheme to play. And we have the role of the terminal operators, we have the role of the shipping companies. What do the terminal operators do? It is the job of the terminal operators when it comes to physical examination to position these containers in a way that makes it easy for customs officers to inspect them. Yes, the inspections are physical, but they are scheduled inspections. Until the container is positioned for inspection, there's nothing the customs officer will do. Again, when containers are positioned for inspection, the officer that is in charge of that inspection, who is selected, is not manually selected, is automatically selected from a pool of officers through the NICE's 2 platform, goes, executes the inspection, and he has basically about 3 decisions to take. 1, to check if what is contained in the documents in terms of value, in terms of classification, and in terms of quantity, and also with regards to regulatory guidelines on the import of that particular item, they all match. Where they match, and we're talking about compliant traders, the officer now goes back into the system, imputes his observations, and that container is automatically released from the system. Once the container is released from the system, an immediate notification is sent to the terminal operators and the shipping companies that this container, has been certified to be okay, and they can now allow exit of these containers from the port. Again, after this procedure is done, the shipping company and the terminal operators also take time to execute exit. Throughout this period, the Nigerian Customs Service has nothing to do with it until the goods actually get to the gate for exit and they are allowed exit from the port. And that is why I say Mr. Mbono got it wrong, because there is nothing like additional checkpoints within the ports. We run an automated system where only those who have a permission to access a declaration are given access to that declaration. Yes, we have interventions in terms of our risk management module, which allows us remotely to monitor all declarations and to point out certain, deficiencies that have been identified, and their targeted intelligence response to the officers on the field that will guide them in their inspections and also in their inputs after these inspections have been made. Now, it has nothing to do with additional checks in the ports. It has nothing to do with what you talked about, the incidents of demurrage in the port, because again, as I said, our system have been harmonized, they've been simplified, and they've been automated. So I don't know where he got that information as to, blaming the Nigerian Customs Service for the demurrage that you have, in the ports, because there are a lot of other factors. It is difficult. Take Apapa Port, for example. It is difficult for truck owners to access the ports because of the road situation in Apapa, the congestion there. And when they do come in, because of the queues that exist inside the ports, it is difficult for them to access where these containers are and to get them to leave. So there are so many other factors. We do know that when it comes to compliant trade, right from the point of documentation, even at the banks, opening of Form M, approving of Form M, and issuing of PAR, to the point of release, based on time release studies that have been done pre-arrival of the container, for documentation that needs to be done before the actual clearance process, it takes just about a day, 7 hours and 6 minutes for that process to be completed. And for compliant trade within the port, also based on time release studies, it takes about 24 hours for a compliant trader to take the delivery of their containers from the ports. And these are all procedures that, as I said earlier, are automated and they've been simplified for use by both our importers and our agents. Just to add, we have a procedure for a fast track, and that is basically for manufacturers, people who import bulk containers and usually homogeneous goods. And these particular individuals are allowed to clear their goods from the port without any form of inspection. So long as they've been certified to be accredited for fast track operations, they can take their goods out of the ports and onto their premises, where post-clearance audit officers can now go there to inspect their goods and certify them to be as declared in the single goods declaration form. So, it is difficult to understand how, somebody as learned as Mr. Mbonu would draw those kind of conclusions as to, attributing increased demorages in the ports to the activities of Nigerian Customs Service.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Omodi. Chika, your response.
Good morning, Officer Timmy. And I'm really happy that you responded to our presentation yesterday. And I would have loved to have seen you respond to other presentations that have had taken place about the Nigerian Customs. Let me just flip through some things for you, and then out of this presentation we can relate, and I will give you further information. Address bottlenecks at the ports. Saraki urges Nigerian Customs. Nigeria has lost cargoes to our neighboring countries, especially Cote d'Ivoire and Benin Republic. One of the major problems we're having within the maritime industry, especially within the ports, is the issue of customs. In order to have efficiency in our ports. That's the Minister Saraki. CBN accuses MPA Customs of creating bottlenecks at the ports. The Senate Governor has said that the Nigerian exporters have resorted to massive diversion of non-oil export cargoes to the neighboring countries due to what is described as unnecessary bottlenecks at the ports created by the Customs Authority. Then he added, "We are lucky today to have customs in this hall. There's more which you can share outside this." He continues, another one, reps probe alleged artificial bottlenecks created by customs at the ports. Custom officials allegedly create artificial bottlenecks to delay the clearing of goods at the ports. Artificial bottlenecks devised by custom officials to exploit importers had resulted in huge financial losses for importers and clearing agents. Now, one more. There are many more, but one more, the interesting one now, came from the MPA former managing director. It's a Nigerian Customs Service, 18 cargo clearing stages and manual examination of cargoes have crippled the ease of doing business at the nation ports. Despite the process manual on port operations launched by the federal government as one of the key indicators for implementation of Executive Order 1, the ease of doing business, the industry seems to have failed as a result of cargo delay, man-hours losses, and clumsy clearing procedures. Now, listen to this, sir. Also, the managing director MPA stressed the problems to customs multiple units within the same port, which had made cargo clearing cumbersome. He continued. After customs finishes 100% examination, just when you think it is over, you load your container and find another custom checkpoint within the same point in the name of Federal Strike Force or something, and they leave the truck for 30 minutes or 1 hour, causing a lot of problems. When you go out again, you find another custom person, and that is why Nigeria has lost so much transit cargo. I can continue. Let me come from the private sector. The chairman of organized private sector, Mr. Taiwo, told this day that what port users encountered at the port with the custom is like an equivalent of a war experience. Even when you struggle to bring in materials, is war at the port to get it out. Listen to this, sir. The NCS is always like never wishing us to clear our goods at the time meant for it. I can spend 1 hour with you on this, sir. Now, let me put this one again, which Nigerian officials like when it favors them, they will accept the reports. The latest World Bank API rating, the Logistics Performance Index, used to measure efficiency of custom clearance process worldwide. Nigerian ports lags behind even its West African peers. You know, the API index for Nigeria was 1.97, South Africa, Egypt was 2.82, Benin Republic 2.75, Togo 2.45. You know, sir, I just wish, just like you watched us yesterday, that the manufacturers, importers of Nigeria will be watching and they'll be clapping for you that Mr. Mbono is just talking jazz and that what the custom people have presented is the true situation. This is that. Okay. Let me just leave it at there. We can take this and answer this, but this is not. I deal with a lot of. I will allow you in a minute. I deal with a lot of these importers. Okay. And I know the nightmare. As I told you, most of them say it is war, and it is war.
All right, Mr. Bomoni, thank you, Chika. Deputy Controller, your response.
Thank you, Mr. Mbonu. And I would like to start with the World Bank rating that you referred to. I think that rating, the last of it was done in 2018, and it tries to capture about 5 or 6 parameters for evaluating competitiveness in countries. And the indices for measuring customs performance was only one of about 5 used to evaluate the competitiveness of our ports. And I will tell you, if you drill down in that report, you discover that the Nigerian Customs Service scored about 3/5. And it is not just the Nigerian Customs Service that is being evaluated. You are going to evaluate the performance of the port operators. You are going to evaluate accessibility of our ports. You are going to evaluate other agencies that work with us in the ports. And about 5 or 6 parameters were used to evaluate us. And of those 5 parameters, Nigerian Customs Service performed a lot higher than all the other stakeholders, you know, that were evaluated. So I will just put that World Bank rating aside. I will encourage all Nigerians to look at that rating and drill down on it. Now, what are the major issues in the ports when it comes to clearing of goods? We're talking about the facilitation of trade for compliant traders. And it's important to make this point. We have incidents where, as I mentioned, because you talked about the Manufacturers Association, where provision was made for manufacturers to clear their goods out of the port using the fast track protocol. And this fast track protocol means that manufacturers that have been certified over time to be compliant traders are allowed to take their goods out of the port without going through the process of examination. And that, of course, eliminates demurrages in the port environment because physical examination is not done there. So the next issue will be maybe for them issues of classification and value. Where issues of classification or valuation arises, then we also have inbuilt agreements that helps us arrive at, you know, clear decisions that will be taken. the agreement on custom value, and issues of classification. Even in dispute resolution, the Nigerian Customs Service has created provisions that makes it easier for disputes to be resolved while goods are taken out of the port. They don't have to remain in the port where disputes arise, and then we encourage importers and agents to avail themselves of that opportunity to get their goods out of the port while we try to resolve disputes. These are procedures that have been built into the system. You mentioned other government officials that have commented about the efficiency of the Nigerian Customs Service, and I find it interesting, those references, because these individuals represent other agencies or departments or ministries of government, and if we want to evaluate their capacity vis-a-vis their assigned responsibilities and what we are expected to do in the customs, we find that what we have done is far ahead of any ministry, department, or agency in this country, and we can say that boldly. The services, our e-services, have been rated as among the best among government parastatals. Okay. We've automated our processes to a very significant level, and I dare say that there is no agency that works within the port environment that has managed to introduce the kind of innovation that the Nigerian Customs Service has introduced, has upgraded the ICT infrastructure to match what we have. We have links in the Nigerian Customs NICSU platform. Yes.
Mr. Bono, okay, look, the thing I just want to put out here is that why do we continue to have issues with bottlenecks at the ports? We have issues, I mean, you know about the time it takes
because,
okay, so yeah, whose fault is that?
Because I was going to come to that.
Okay.
There are so many factors responsible for that in the port.
And you are immune, are you immune from that? Sorry, are you immune from those? Yeah, immune. The Nigerian Customs Service is immune.
Let us break it down.
Okay. All right.
No, I'm coming. I want to break it down so that your audience understands the issues that are prevalent in the port. Access to the ports on the average takes about a week or more for trucks to get access into the port. So even though the Nigerian Customs Service releases goods that have been examined in one day, the fact that it is difficult for trucks to get access to the port makes it difficult for them to get their goods out of the port, because without the trucks, you cannot take your goods out of the port. We have other government agencies in the port. Yes, the Nigerian Customs Service is the lead agency, but we work in tandem with these agencies. As I said, our IT infrastructure has been elevated. And so we have other agencies whose ICT infrastructure do not yet match what we have. So they have both manual-driven processes and a bit of automation. And when they finish with the Nigerian Customs Service and we are clear with regards to classification and value of goods, we now have to defer to them in terms of agency regulation. And we wait, but nobody sees that. They only see the Nigerian Customs Service. We have terminal operators who have challenges with their equipment. And when containers are required for positioning to be examined, it takes a few days for those containers to be positioned by the terminal operators before customs can do its job. The job of customs is quite simple, and we have, laid them out. We have simplified our processes. We've made them more user-friendly. We've automated these processes, and even to the convenience of our users. Also, within the ports, the interventions that Mr. Mbonu mentioned are highly limited. They are driven by risk management, and all the way from customs headquarters to the different ports and terminals, we have these automated responses to risk, and we tell our officers on the ground as to what they should put more attention on. So these units that he mentioned do not exist. And I do know where Mr. Mbonu actually got that information in terms of the number of desks. He quoted the MD, the former MD of MPA. I think he quoted the Minister of State for Transport and some other individuals. With all due respect to these individuals, I don't know if they were also, accurately quoted by the press, but with due respect to them, none of these organizations currently is performing at the same level as the Nigerian Customs Service, and it will do all Nigerians well if they can up their game and be at par with what we are doing at the Nigerian Customs Service, so that we can have better service delivery at our ports.
Chika, do you have a response?
Yeah, I think for me, the focus you know what we've been doing in this program is for a better Nigeria and for the good of our country. And the Transparency International, for example, said the country was losing about $2 billion in government revenue, and the private sector is losing about $8 billion in private sector revenue yearly in Nigerian ports. And whereas the custom people are not the only people at the ports, I'm sure also that's why the CBN governor at the time, when he did the export town hall meeting, he said that he wanted to appeal to the custom and the MPA that they should establish a working group and to put their heads together to make sure there's a synergy towards a better Nigeria. And so that the importers don't talk about there's a war going on to clear goods at the port. It's a nightmare. And then we don't lose goods to neighboring countries. That's the basis of our conversation. Our conversation, yeah.
All right, so Mr. Boy, if I understand you correctly, just so that we can take something away from this conversation, I think you seem to be attributing the issues at the ports not to the Nigerian Customs Service, but other agencies that are not part of you, and
Definitely.
also the issue of the roads leading to the ports. Are those the biggest issues? Other agencies, there's too many agencies, one, and then the roads leading to the ports, two. Those are we're ending the show in 2 minutes now. Those are the two big issues facing the two biggest issues facing moving of imports and exports for us. Are those the two issues?
Thank you very much. With special regard to exports, we do know that in our ports today, following concession of the ports, there was no provision for an export examination terminal within the ports. So exports were before now being remotely examined either in the premises of the exporter or in designated areas, both by our officers and pre-shipment inspection agents. Today, fortunately, I think they've come up with a solution where exports can be aggregated at a particular point. I think recently Lily Pond terminal was approved for that exercise, and after which they will now be allowed access into the ports for onward movement to their various destinations. Now again, we have to emphasize this point. It has nothing to do with the operations of customs, because customs operation is very simple. You focus on the declaration, you focus on certifying all the requirements necessary for export of those goods, and then these things are sealed and taken out of the country. But it is one thing to examine containers remotely. It is another thing to have these containers move into the port premises because of the congestion on the roads. And it can take upwards of 2 to 3 weeks after customs may have carried out these exercises for these containers to actually get into the port. And that is where the problem lies. Fine. That is what needs to be addressed. As it concerns other government agencies, we do know that we have provided links for all these agencies, and we've encouraged them to step up their game in terms of their ICT infrastructure, because the world has gone digital. We can't afford to be, using manual processes for things that ought to be automated. And we've told them that the Nigerian Customs Service is always ready to work with them to achieve this goal. Recently, Standard Organizations of Nigeria came, they visited the Controller General of Customs, and they promised that they were going to, work on their ICT infrastructure and even bring in customs officers in the use of this infrastructure, to train their officers in the use of this infrastructure. We encourage other government agencies to do the same. We are only one in a chain, and we know that a chain is as strong as its weakest link. And we encourage all of these other links to be as strong as the link of the customs. That is the only way we can be competitive. That is the only way our ports can be efficient, and we can begin to see less incidents of demurrages and other, costs that do not need to be incurred by businesses in the country.
All right, Chika, we got to go. So final word.
Your final word. I mean, two things. The first one is the Minister for Trade should push trade. That is this single window initiative where every regulatory agency can go and look at this document, instead of like passing from table to table to table and to table, and the same parameters, people can look at it. Mr. Wanodi, I wouldn't let you go.
Chika, what a time.
I will leave it to you. Please help us look at your officers who, when containers leave the port, what they do after they leave the port. Just look at that. Look at that, sir.
All right, Mr. Bamodi, we appreciate you coming on air. Okay, go ahead, sir. Very quickly, sir. Just very, very quick, because we gotta go. We gotta go.
Very quickly, yes. I mean, each organization reserves for itself, its strategic goals and how it wishes to achieve those goals in terms of, blocking leakages and also, enforcing fiscal policy as it regards trade. In this case, we do have intervention forces which ensures that where mistakes occur, even within the port environment, outside, possibly in other places, even in warehouses, their interventions can be made to see that the right thing is done and to discourage people whose tendency is to be non-compliant as it regards trade.
Mr. Bomoni, thank you so much. Spokesperson, Deputy Controller of Customs, we need government agencies to talk to us and talk to the people. And we also appreciate analysts like Chika Mbono, holding government to account so we can have these conversations. Thank you both for your time today. We appreciate it very much.